At the mercy of an ancient unholy magic, she will steal your heart, and your soul if you're not careful. Meet the Mystic. A reformed thief with a dark secret, the Mystic struggles to control the ancient serpent god in her gauntlet. But without a constant stream of enemy souls, who knows what her master might do? The Mystic's daggers are a conduit to the uncontrollable magic of the serpent god. Summoning powerful strikes, the Mystic harvests the souls of the fallen enemies, appeasing her new master. When enemies move beyond the reach of her strikes, the Mystic fires chaotic serpent energy from her gauntlet. With her first ability, the Mystic summons the serpent god to lash out at her enemies, dealing massive poison damage. With Call to Madness, the Mystic summons the serpent's screech, causing nearby enemies to turn on each other. When a single enemy causes trouble, the Mystic hurls a dagger into them, inflicting dark torment. This draws attacks from the Mystic's serpents. Enemies defeated under dark torment turn to sand, automatically placing a new tower that continues attacking. The now immortal Mystic has no need for traditional healing. So with Serpent's Coil, the Mystic hurls a dagger into the ground, and a snake wraps around it. Any enemy within the snake's gaze suffers damage, and when killed, turns into a healing orb that any hero can collect. With her first defense, Snaking Sands, the Mystic places a sand trap. When an enemy trips it, a sandy vortex slows them down, stunning them as they sink into the ground. With Sand Viper, the Mystic summons a slithering incantation that fires an increasingly damaging beam at any enemy within range. When the Mystic uses her Dark Torment ability, any nearby Sand Viper focuses its beam on the tormented enemy. Mess with the Mystic and you'll get the Viper's Fangs, a defense that fires a poison bubble, lifting enemies from the ground. Pop the bubble, and poisoning rain also falls on any enemies below. The Mystic's final defense, the Obelisk, is as fickle as the Serpent God himself. It inflicts up to 5 debilitating status effects on enemies across the battlefield, while potentially shielding a hero. When fully appeased with souls, the god appears on the obelisk and breathes unholy fire upon enemies. With great power comes great sacrifice. Without a constant stream of enemy souls for the Mystic Serpent Master, who knows what chaos might be unleashed? Let's not find out.
The first time that they contacted me to drive the car, I'd actually just watched a race which they did at Pocono, and Don Devendorf was driving the car, and he crashed the car. I think the seatbelts became detached when he hit the wall, and he was pretty winded. Luckily, he wasn't seriously injured. And I had this vision of him on his hands and knees on the track next to the car, obviously having real difficulty breathing. Don couldn't do the next race, and so Trevor Harris, who had just joined the project, I think suggested that they should call me. And I received this phone call, and it was Trevor on the other end of the line, and says, would you come out and drive the Nissan? First thing that popped to my mind was Don on his hands and knees, and I said no. So no, not really. I'm not really that interested.
at Sears Point, Jeff Brabham leads the race, and with a first or second place by either he or teammate Chip Robinson, Nissan will clinch that long-awaited and much sought-after Manufacturers' Championship. Over the years, this car has taken a beating. They called it fast but unreliable in the early going. They crashed more often than they finished in their first year or two, but Don Devendorf stayed with it. Kaz Kasner came on as Nissan's motorsports manager in North America, and he stayed the program as well. They have gradually brought the car around, and right now it is the most dominating machine in any form of racing this side of the McLarens in Formula One.
With my dad, you know, he's three-time world champion. He won the championship in a car that bared his name. At that particular time, they were the biggest racing car manufacturer in the world. He was just an inspiration, I think, for me. When I was growing up, I used to go to all the races with him, and I just wanted to really try and make a career out of being a race driver myself, which I managed to do. It's kind of cool to be part of that whole family legacy, I suppose. The team, when I joined them, it was just a race team, 20 people working there. And no one from the opposition's point of view took us particularly seriously, because up to that point, the Porsche 962s and the Jaguar were dominant, basically. We made quite significant changes to the team and the car. The Trevor Harris designed chassis came on board in '88. We switched from Bridgestones to Goodyear tires. IMSA did us a really big favor by putting restrictors on the turbos. Yes, it cut 200 horsepower out of the engines, but it gave us way more torque. So everything just fell into place, and we went on an 8-race win streak, and we won the championship.
Give the win to Jeff Brabham, victorious.
Now, once again, you were aboard with Jeff Brabham. Hard on the brakes right here, and then turn it in. Looks like he might be trail braking a little bit, and once again he gets up on the rumble strips, very close to the tires, very close to that concrete pit wall. He is really letting it all hang out.
In '89, we had a little bit more opposition in the sense that Jaguars changed over from their V12, and they bought their own V6 turbo engine in. Toyotas were starting to get their act together. Porsche 962 at that time kind of faded away. They weren't able to keep up. The GTP Nissan, how it drove for me was just like a normal race car. That was the strong point about the car. I was never conscious of having to baby it before the tires came up to temperature. I mean, basically, every time I drove out of the pits, I was on it. When you jot on the throttle, it just went. We had no issues at all ever about putting power down to the ground. The car was absolutely a rocket ship. Generally, the overriding problem for me was just always trying to just dial out a little bit of push, a little bit of understeer. Now, because we had to run fairly stiff springs on the front to keep the platform stable, the biggest tool that I used to make the car turn in was actually adjusting the rear toe. We always used to run toe out, anything from 0 to 3/8 of an inch, half an inch toe out at the rear. So, if you looked at our car, the rear wheels, instead of, they were kind of like that, so.
There is the second place car, Jeff Brabham, the defending Camel GT champion, who has closed up now on Cobb. Cobb set a blistering pace early on, but now you can see the gap is about 10 car lengths. Despite winning 19 of their last 24 races and leading in both the Drivers' and Manufacturers' Championships, you can hardly blame Team Nissan for looking over its collective shoulder. A year ago, with Jeff Brabham's driving title in hand, Nissan arrived at Del Mar, California for the season's final race, needing a victory to clinch the manufacturer's crown. Instead, Nissan lost the title by a single point. This year, Nissan appears to have things under control once again, with 9 wins in 12 races. But last month in Portland, Oregon, a befuddled official threw the checkered flag 3 laps early. Jaguar was declared winner, whereupon Nissan promised to appeal to the bitter end, and Brabham's frustration showed through.
To cut a long story short, they actually ended up winning the protest, even though the race finished 3 laps early. The next race, our mechanics who did all the artistry had a big screw on the on the front cover, you know, with the checkered flags. You know, it was symbolizing we got screwed out of the win for that particular race.
In an interesting season for the Nissan team, they ran so strongly earlier this year at the 24 Hours of Daytona. They won the 12 Hours of Sebring, eliminating that last knock against the Nissan as perhaps a sprint car more than a long-distance endurance sports racer. They have won everything just about that you can win except a 24-hour race, and they may well take care of that fairly soon.
You know, it was one of those situations where everything just came together at the right time. It suited my driving style. For me, looking back on my career, it's definitely probably my favorite car, you know, because we won so many races and we went through so much together. It will always be dear to my heart. Drive this car on iRacing, I think you've just got to understand that it's got a lot of power, really good grip. You obviously got to make sure you dial the understeer out of it, but my dad always used to say, just get after it, just really get after it. It will reward you if you do.
Rated everyone 10 and up.
Evil spreads across the land. It is foretold the world will be saved by a killer new man. The noble, the crazy one, has rescued the vinyl of prophecy. Oh, Freddy! Now I offer thee a quest to save the world and become rock legend.
Sounds like hard work. What do we get out of it?
Fine. Earn hero status to impress whomever your heart desires.
Yeah!
Discover new ways to annoy people. And you'll get to randomly attack evil creatures and generally cause all kinds of chaos. Whoa. I haven't finished. Or just hang around and do nothing. Whatever you want.
for blood.
Time to find our fate. Move out!
It's about to go down. You better be ready for some action.
Out of my way! Come on! Bring it! Let's do our thing! This is the right tool.
We got some more stores unlocked. Now get in there.
Hit it with your head! Clean up!
Come on!
Check it out, Brooks!